Make a Path presents Let's Talk.
Alright, Deadheads, welcome to Make a Path Presents. Listen, this is going to be a long review, I already know, but there is one thing I've been dying to tell you guys since Slabtown. So, if long reviews bore you, or anything else bores you, please stick around just for that little tiny tidbit, and then you can take off if you want to. But I had a lot of fun making this review, a lot of fun. So if you want to stick around, it's honestly one of my favorite reviews. Now, this episode did remind me why I sleep on it first, and then I wake up and do the review. And before anyone jumps down in the comments and starts defending why we need slow episodes, it wasn't that it was slow. Take it from a guy who loves Breaking Bad. Even the action in Breaking Bad is slow. I don't mind slow. As a matter of fact, we needed an episode where the gang is in the gutter, they're thirsty, they're starving, and with the introduction of Aaron at the end of this episode, for the comic fans that have forgotten, or the non-comic book readers, it's all about the change in a major way. So we needed this episode. But going back over this episode and trying to justify why I gave it a lower rating, I noticed something that stood out to me. Good writing. For the fans that say the writing is bad, this review is especially for you. Trust me, I was surprised as well. Let's talk The Walking Dead, episode 510, Them. Alright, first let's run through some issues. We'll break it down. There was three major ones. First one is Daryl. Now, it was said that Daryl was going to go to a dark place from here on out, and I'm starting to think that dark is a code word for quiet. Now, where the writing shows its strength is where Carol and Daryl went off the first time. I believe it was to flank the cars or to find food and water. He goes off a couple times, but the first time Carol goes with. And she has this conversation with him about reminding him that he's the one who said we're not dead. If this were the CW, Daryl would have opened up, cried like a baby, and they would have sucked face for a couple minutes. If it was HBO, we would have got a graphic sex scene. But it's not. The writing is good. We do not need a gimmick. And at this point in time in the show, a sex scene or sucking face would have been a gimmick. It would have been wildly out of place and inappropriate. Instead, we get a more subtle kiss on the head. And later, Daryl goes off, but tells Carol to stay. He knows he needs a moment alone. Now, he's having a smoke, and I believe he tells Carol to stay behind because he knows he needs that moment to grieve. But he sits down, and he's not grieving. He feels dead. He might even be thinking in the back of his mind, you know, the past few days, the past couple weeks, I've been walking around like I'm dead already. I have been the Walking Dead. He might be thinking that in his mind. And then he burns himself to figuratively come back to life. And once he does, he opens up, he breaks down, he feels alive, and he grieves, he cries, and he lets it out. Now, this process he goes through might help explain why he misinterpreted Rick when Rick said we are the Walking Dead. Now, guys, this interpretation doesn't mean it's true. This is just what I got from watching the episode. Now, the next issue with this episode is actually my favorite quote from the comic. We are the Walking Dead. Now, before we get into this, I have been waiting rather impatiently since Slabtown to bring this up. In Slabtown, Beth used parts of comic book Rick's We Are the Walking Dead speech, where he yells at the group, "You still think people are coming to rescue us. No one is coming." Well, he says they are not coming. And Beth says the same thing, no one is coming, to Dawn in Slabtown. I've been waiting ever since that Slabtown to piece that together with the TV quote, and we finally got it. Also, in that same quote, I personally believe that the governor got a remixed version of Rick's same quote. In that speech, Rick says, "I was naive to believe that we can make a rule where if you kill, you die." The next thing Rick says, he says, "In today's world, you kill and you live." The governor said something very similar. He says, "You kill or you die and you kill." I believe that was it. But I just loved how I thought that was a remix. Both the governor and Beth got a little remix of the same lecture that Rick gave to the prisoners. Also, I love how Rick was in the prison scrubs when he gave that speech, and Beth was in the hospital scrubs. It's the little things like that that open our eyes as fans, and we go, man, you know what? They are making more of an effort than we give them credit for sometimes. I absolutely love that, and I think it's it's awesome that I could finally put that out there. Now, my problem with the line is it didn't seem as strong at first as it was in the comic. Disappointingly to a degree. And here is where I have an issue as a fan. Not anything bad, quite the opposite. It helped me to appreciate the comic and the show on their own. As fans, we often compare what is better, the comic version or the show. The comic was such a powerful, screaming pep talk, an aggressive one at fact. Yet the show, it was a calm, campfire pep talk. Now, I am a highly energized guy, so I often lead towards the more intense version. But this quote, delivered in contrasting ways, environments, and moments, really helped me to appreciate that just because we didn't get the intense screaming speech in the show doesn't take away from the fact that we already have it in the comic. And in my eyes, I am seriously starting to question why we have to pick which version we like better, instead of just liking both. Some of us enjoy liking both, and at times it feels like we actually have to decide which one is better. I see no purpose in pitting both pieces of work against each other. Now, I wanted an intense quote, but I also found myself appreciating the nice, calm campfire one that we got. But I can still have a good time poking fun at it. And now the third issue was the barn, and to be brutally honest, it was because I was so sure and so hyping myself up that we were going to get leading the walkers away kind of scene, you know what I mean? And the closer we got to the end of the episode and the less time we had, I was thinking it's not coming. We're not having some ultimate showdown with the walkers and luring them away. And then it cuts to black. And to be clear, it wasn't a dream. I really feel that the editing was done in a way where we think, oh, it was a dream. And then Maggie and Sasha go outside and we're like, oh, that was not a dream. A tornado had ripped through there and it threw a walker in a tree. I really did like the walker on the ground with the broken arm. And the destruction was just massive. And it was a miracle that the barn wasn't ripped out of the ground and thrown in a tree as well. Or just shattered to pieces. Now, although I was disappointed at first viewing because I was expecting some kind of big battle, I did like that destruction outside. I did like the walkers with the broken arm. I enjoyed all that, but most importantly, I enjoyed that the very three people who were in a deep state of depression throughout this episode were the first three people at the barn door. Daryl is the one who sees it, Maggie is next, and after throughout the episode Maggie's questioning how much time they have left to live even, and she also finds a walker in the trunk that clearly resembled a kidnap victim, much like Beth. Then we have Sasha, who was rather hard on Noah, in very rough contrast to how Tyrese gave Noah some encouragement. But we know that Sasha was projecting, because later she admitted to Maggie she was thinking the same thing Noah was. So she wasn't being a bitch to Noah per se, she was projecting and talking to herself. But we have Sasha run into the barn door to help as well, to keep it closed. So the three people who were fighting depression throughout this episode were the three people to first jump at the chance to shut the door and fight the walkers back. Now, I believe throughout this episode that the group is starting to crack, but they all come together holding the barn door closed. Even Father Gabriel and Eugene. Carl puts the baby down to help even. We see Sasha next to Michonne, and there was a little friction there earlier in the episode. Now was not the time, Glenn. We see Daryl and Rick share a look, and there was some friction there a little bit. There's these friction with the characters throughout this episode, but they come together, and they literally survive a storm together holding that barn door closed. And it took every single member of that group to do it. So, as much as I got my hopes up for a Walker war out in the storm, I believe there's a lot more meaning behind the door than simply leading the Walkers away and fighting in the rain, which is what I predicted. With that issue out of the way, did anyone else fall in love with Abraham in this episode? I mean, first, he jumps at the chance to save Eugene, but then he kind of looks at the ground as if he's like, wait a minute, I don't have to do that anymore. Or you can also interpret that as he jumped at the chance to save him, and then he was thinking, wait a minute, why would I do that? I'm still mad at this son of a bitch. You know what I mean? I really like that scene, and I especially liked, if you saw my reaction video, that's what I was laughing at, when he tells Sasha all, like, heartwarmingly, you're among friends. She's like, yeah, you're not my friend. And he just gave this look like... That's a little harsh, bitch. You know what I mean? I absolutely love that. And you can interpret that into a bunch of different ways. You know what I mean? He could have been like, yeah, whatever, bitch. Okay. You know, that's the last time I give you words of encouragement. But anyway, I just love that little bit right there. It just tacked on a little more love for Abraham. I loved it. And now, although our characters are asses to other characters throughout the episode, like Maggie to Father Gabriel, Sasha to Michonne, and Abraham, we see them giving kind of like a caring glance. Maggie at the fire where Father Gabriel burns his, I don't even know what that thing is, but part of his preacher collar, you know. Maggie has like a concerning look, a caring look. Sasha does kind of the same in the barn, kind of regretting that she was an ass earlier on to Abraham. And I liked how, even though Father Gabriel doesn't have much involvement in the story, he still helped out, obviously, with the group at the barn. I like how he's still throwing his collar. He was still trying to talk to Maggie. He's still active, you know what I mean? It's not like he's just this quiet character in the background tagging along now. And then he threw his collar in, but then especially where he basically cried and he said, sorry, I stopped believing in you, Lord, or whatever, when the rain came, just in the nick of time. I still love how an unimportant character, seemingly, can still add a little bit to the story. And finally, we get introduced to a friend. Now, there might be a follow-up video on Aaron. I'm not sure yet. I do have 2 videos. If you have not seen them yet, I did label them as spoilers because it goes into a pretty good detail of what is Alexandria. I try not to spoil a lot of the story, but there is a good amount there to help you understand what is Alexandria. And I also have my What Happens at Alexandria video, and that does go over some of the comic books story there. If you don't want to know anything in the comic, I wouldn't. But if you do, click on those and that will take you there. Or if you're not on a computer, find the link in the description below. I'll leave those there as well. Or you can always find them in my video log, my video list. Now, Aaron's appearance, I was actually very, very pleased with his first appearance, and I didn't mind that it wasn't Rick and Abraham like the comics. I liked that it was actually Sasha and Maggie. I liked the sunset. I liked the little music box. It was actually like a nice creepy touch how he said, I have good news for you, and then all of a sudden the broken music box started to play, and they kind of gave it a look like, well, that is creepy shit. And also Aaron knows Rick's name, so he was close enough to hear them. Or if you're a comic book fan, you have a good idea of how they probably know Rick's name. Also, since the comic book is in black and white, some scenes do not pop as much as they do visually on TV, and this is what I love. And this is why I think TV's appearance of Aaron is way more dynamic than it is in the comic, unfortunately, and that has to do with the medium. You can't get it to pop as much in the comic as it does on TV. And what I mean by that is Aaron's clean-shaven face, fresh haircut, and outfit was starkly juxtaposed to the ragged, dirty look of our survivors. Aaron looked like the apocalypse for him just started. Now, I know the introduction to Aaron was brief, but I tell you what, I got a very good feeling about this actor, and I think that they nailed his introduction in the TV show. And most of all, I love the fact that they kept the name Aaron, and it makes me strongly believe that they will not go and change the name of Alexandria. No, I do not believe those rumors that they are changing the name of Alexandria, and I will be shocked if they do. And I think maybe I went on long enough. So guys, it's about time I shut up now and hear your opinions about this episode. I know there's going to be a lot of conflicting opinions on this one specifically. I am dying to know what you... I say that a lot. You know what? Each time I make a video, I'm always more and more curious to what you guys have to say. You guys are being more active, more open. I'm hearing more communication in the comments. It's fantastic. There's times where I'm off work and making a video, and I don't have time to interact in the comments. And by the time I check the comments, I see everyone is just chit-chatting away, and I friggin' love that. You know what I mean? Because even if I don't have time to be there, and keep in mind, within 72 hours, I'm checking comments. If I'm very busy it's never longer than 2 or 3 days. So if you're new to this channel and you want to communicate, trust me. I will either read your comment, thumb it up, or I comment back. I am so sick of YouTubers who are so full of shit where they say, oh, don't worry. I read the comments at least. You tell me it takes 1 second, a fraction of a second, to thumb up a comment if you read it. And that's what I do a lot. If you notice, even if I disagree with someone's opinion, if you share your opinion, I'm thumbing it up, letting you know I read it. Because, guys, I am a YouTube viewer, not just a content creator, and I'm quick to pull the bullshit card on content creators because I am sick, as a viewer myself, of some of the bullshit that YouTubers do. Wow, why do I start with rants all the time? Guys, let me know what you thought about this episode. Leave those in the comments down below, because I'm done talking. Finally, it's your turn. Why do you guys put up with me?
Subscribe